North Smithfield Town Council, June 21st, 2022. Madam Clerk, will you lead us with the prayer and the pledge, please?
Lord, assist with thy Holy Spirit of counsel all those who are serving in positions of authority and responsibility. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Here.
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 Here. Open forum pursuant to Rhode Island General Law 42-46-6. If anybody would like to speak during open forum, we ask that you can speak about anything you'd like other than budget issues. There's going to be an open meeting on the budget coming right up. Would anybody like to be heard during open forum? Okay.
Well, I would, Mr. President.
Mr. Zelinski?
Yes, no.
You're doing it now.
I know, but I don't have to.
No, that's what.
I'd just like to let everyone know that Vivian is moving on to a higher calling, and this will be her last public meeting here, being covered for the Valley Breeze. And I want to thank her for her fair and impartial press coverage. Thank you, Vivian.
Good luck. We're just going to move a few things around on the agenda tonight. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to move to Agenda Item 5, presentation of citation and recognition of Cala Pachetti Senior Project for Operation Stand Down. Before we go into that, I just want to stress real quickly that there were some really fantastic senior projects this year. There really were. And by recognizing Cala, we're not saying that hers, no offense, were any better or different than the other presentation, the other senior projects, but she really struck a nerve with her, what she's trying to do for the veterans. And as you know, the council and the administrator are a big supporter of the veterans. So we asked Calla to come here tonight, and we're going to present her with a citation for her work with the veterans, and it means a real lot. And you're going to realize just how much it means in just a minute. But first, I would like to ask Ernie Corey from Operation Stand Down to come up and tell us a little bit about the organization and what they do for our veterans. While he's going up there, on full disclosure, Ernie and I were in the State Police Academy together. So
All right, I'll be nice. My name's Ernie Quarry. I retired from the state police in 2014 and was able to secure a job with Operation Stand Down Rhode Island. Operation Stand Down Rhode Island is a nonprofit. We were started in 1993 by a Vietnam veteran who was our founder, Tony DeQuattro. And our primary goal is to help homeless veterans and their families. We currently have 88 units throughout the state, properties in Woonsocket all the way down to Westerly. We provide financial assistance in some cases. We have a food pantry, clothing assistance, and we do much more than just that. But I would really like to thank Calla. The money is great and everything, but the exposure is more important to us. Getting the word out there about homeless veterans. I'm a veteran. I didn't go to Vietnam. I was in the Marine Corps back in the 70s, but I missed that. And I thought I knew a lot about the homeless vets. It wasn't until I started with Operation Stand Down, and I worked directly with them. And they have good days and they have bad days. So what she has done, bringing the exposure to the veteran world, is a great thing, and I thank you very, very much for that. The money's also helpful. 100% of the money will go to the veterans. We are paid by our grants. So none of the money raised, that all goes directly to them in some way, shape, or form. So again, thank you for allowing me to come up and speak briefly, and more importantly, Calla, thank you for your hard work. And I mean, we have, like I told you, we have a person dedicated, a paid job to do what you did, and it's a big undertaking. So thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Calla, would you mind coming up and just letting everybody know what you did exactly?
So for my senior project, I revived the Northman 5K, which we haven't had in 6 or 7 years now. I actually broke the record for participants, and I raised money for Operation Stand Down.
Excellent. And how much did you raise?
So I brought in $26,000, and then after covering my costs, I'm going to be donating just about $15,000 to Operation Stand Down.
That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
If you want, could you grab a picture of representing Ernie with the check? Yeah, that's a great idea. It's a great idea.
No, Richard, you can't get it.
Now, if I could take a minute, don't go away. We've got one more thing. This is the North Smithfield Town official citation. Let it be known on behalf of the people of North Smithfield, the Town Council, and the Town Administrator hereby present Cala Puccetti in recognition of the 2022 Senior Project Northman 5K race on April 30th, 2022. The entire community takes pride in the effort and dedication that is behind such an accomplishment by one of its citizens. In witness thereof, we set the official seal of the Town of North Smithfield, and it's signed by the Town Council and the Town Administrator. So. I'll talk to you later. Before we go on with the continuation of the public hearing, I was asked if we could just move on to number 6 real quickly, do the discussion by council about the other action on payment of bills. So if we could just move on to that real quickly. If anybody has anything they'd like to. Oh, we did have one. Any council members have anything, any issues they'd like to discuss with the bills at this time? I'll give you a second to get everything together. Oh, okay. Everybody good? Is there a motion to approve?
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the payment of bills in the amount of $3,648,863.59 for the direction of the Finance Director.
Thank you. That's a motion. We have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. O'Hara. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Mr. Administrator, is that good? We can,
Yeah, appreciate it. Well, Denise is usually here, and I think that she may be trying to time it to be the 6th item on the agenda to show up.
okay,
So Cynthia just texted her, told her that it's okay.
okay, good,
Thank you.
okay. I'm going to go back up into the order now. Number 4, continuation of public hearing on fiscal year budget 2022, 2023.
Mr. President,
Mr. Vadney.
make a motion that we reopen a public hearing on fiscal year 2022-2023 budget.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Alves. Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. So is there anybody in the audience tonight that would like to be heard on the in the public hearing regarding the budget? Mr. Lombardi, Chairman of the School Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, members of the Town Council, Mr. Administrator, first, thank you for keeping this public hearing open and allowing me to speak. I know that at the last meeting, my letter wasn't read into the record because it was too long. But I'm not going to read it into the record. I think that the committee properly covered it in their what they spoke about. I think I want to just say one thing about the letter. I think the most important thing in the letter is the recognition of all of the awards for our students. That with a small school, it's really unbelievable. It's about 3 pages, and these aren't internal. These are third-party recognitions. One of the surprising things is that in the spring session, all of our teams made it to the sports. Made it to the states. That's unheard of. If we did it, one team made it in the past, that would be surprising. All of our teams made it, and some of them won. I think it was volleyball and baseball. I just wanted to brag about that a little bit. Not that I did anything, but. So just to quickly reiterate, the school department's looking for a 2.2% increase, or $464,000. Our original proposal came in at 2.97, or $625,000. Although our funding went down by the state and our cost increased, we are trying to be realistic. I know that surplus came up last meeting, and as we have always done, we put our surplus right back into capital, and if we can, get reimbursed for it. So if we spend $1 million, generally we get about $400,000 back, approximate numbers. So we always try to go back and then take the 400, add something to it, and then go back out and try to get reimbursed again. I'll give you some examples. And these are things that we have undertaken and without coming to you. The replacement of the high school windows, the North Smithfield Elementary School ventilation upgrade, the high school science labs, the track and field replacement, the high school locker room, and the North Smithfield Elementary School fire alarm system. I believe that we've spent taxpayer funds wisely. Once again, I would just ask for a 2.2% increase, or $464,000. Thank you. I'm here for any questions.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Chairman Lombardi? Anyone in the audience have any questions for Chairman Lombardi? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Claire, do you want to say something?
Yes, you weren't here, Mr. Lombardi, but last week, I put forth that we should have 3 offices: high school, middle school, and elementary. The other thing, I'm hoping, and it sounds, when I was listening to you, we must keep our students engaged. Some students who are quiet, got in trouble. Their lives change. You cannot remove them, but you must engage them. If, I don't know, any retired teachers like myself would go and help in some way. But if we don't do this, I've seen it in years past, where along the way we lose them. I am asking you, and I will support this at all costs. Don't throw them away, keep them close, and they'll get through these hard times. I don't know if you're figuring that in, but if you haven't, bring it forth.
Councilwoman, I can tell you that if you go back and watch some of the school committee meetings, I have been an advocate for mental health services, counseling. I have seen it firsthand that these kids are suffering, and that We are spending ESSA funds on counselors. I think that should be our #1 priority right now. So I agree with you 100%.
I will stand strong on that one, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Yeah, to her point, and I was mentioning last week, it seems like things have just changed a little bit, you know, like the students that were like A students, high honors, and so now, and it wasn't just the students, it seems like everybody, even the teachers, we gotta try to, I don't know, it's just, everything's different now,
I agree with you.
you know?
Unfortunately, I think the pandemic hurt us more than we'll ever know,
Yeah,
and it will continue to hurt us.
thank you.
Thank you.
Did anybody else want to get up and speak for the public hearing? Mr. Porter?
This is just more of thank you for reading my letter into the public hearing last week. Unfortunately, fortunately, I was in Florida on vacation for a well-deserved break.
His wasn't as long.
So I also just wanted to offer up the opportunity, if there were any other questions that I could help answer for the council, provide any further clarification in what the kind of, I know we're on the agenda a little later for an update, but if there was any kind of clarification that I could provide for you for, the Class 1 survey and the master planning services that the Hallowell Review Committee are looking to move forward with, I just wanted to make myself available for that.
Well, since we're on the subject, so the 30,000 was for the Class 1 survey.
In talking with the town planner, we're estimating that it's gonna be under the 30,000 threshold. So we're gonna be, we've recommended to the council in the next agenda item that we move forward going through the master price agreement. We think that it should be around the range of a $20,000 line item. And just based on my professional services and my background, I'm estimating that a master plan would be at 120,000.
Okay. All right, I have some questions, but we'll discuss that at the next.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions, Mr. Porter?
Right,
Jeff.
thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to be heard for the public hearing on the budget? We're gonna close it. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Last call. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing on the budget issue.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we close the public hearing on fiscal 2022-23 budget.
It's a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion on this? Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, it takes us down to number 7, discussion by council vote of the action on consent agenda. All items listed in this section are considered in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a councilor so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda. Would anybody, any councilors like to have anything removed from the consent agenda for discussion? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mr. President,
Oh, Ms. Alves?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda, the A, Town Council minutes of May 16, 2022, and communications, Animal Control Monthly Report for May 2022, North Smithfield Police Department Monthly Report for May 2022, North Smithfield Municipal Court Monthly Report for May 2022, and North Smithfield Fire and Rescue Monthly Report for May 2022.
That's a motion. We have a second on that?
second.
Second by Mr. Vadney. Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Old business, discussed by council vote of the action and update of Municipal Building Review Task Force. Mr. Nordstrom?
Good evening. Just real quick, we met last Tuesday. And the purpose of the meeting was to discuss what interim measures need to be done at the police station, in lieu of the fact that, construction is delayed. And actually, if you read the Valley Breeze, Vivian's summary of the meeting was spot on. That basically was what we talked about. One of the things we're focusing on is that letter we got from the interlocal trust on the deficiencies in the building. But the town administrator has set up a meeting for next Tuesday. And they'll go through the building and get a sign off or any indication of things that need to be done. And then we'll report back to the council with some recommendations. There's still, I think, 1.2 or $1.3 million left in that original bond issue, which may not cover everything, but could cover a majority of the items, so we'll report back.
Anybody have any questions, Mr. Nordstrom?
No, but I do have a comment. Gentlemen, I'd like to thank the entire committee. The work you've done has been unbelievable. Your expertise that you shared with the town would have cost us big bucks. I think both the chief and the committee went through things very thoroughly with needs, deficiencies, etc. And I thank you for all your time and appreciate you not charging for that.
I thank you.
Anyone else? Thanks, Paul.
Okay.
Discussion by council, vote or the action and update of the Cala Review Committee. Mr. Corvo.
Thank you. So as Jeff had mentioned a few minutes ago, we didn't meet this past week or last Thursday. However, I did have a question. I know that I had mentioned in the last town council meeting as far as an update, as far as the discussion of having a Class 1 survey done. One of the questions that was brought up is, does anybody know if Hallowell has, or the school district has, a copy of a Class 1 delineation survey that was done in the past? Do we know if that's been, we don't? Okay.
We can go back into the old town hall, and see if there's, to my knowledge, I don't believe there's one.
Okay.
I know previously, the town planner, Tom Kravitz, that we had looked for one near us, and committee member Bob Mayo had reached out to Alan Seepy, facilities manager over at the schools, and there has not been any report of Class 1 survey.
Okay. As far as updated information, I guess I would maybe divert to you. You said you had a couple questions for Jeff on that?
Well, just, Jeff, I was just a little confused, and maybe you can clarify it. So you want the $30,000 for the Class 1 survey,
But it could be less.
but what's the one, I don't understand, what's the 150 for then?
So it's a total of the Class 1 survey, which would be the 30,000. I'm just putting in 30,000 as a line item because that's the master price agreement threshold. And then the 120 would be for the master plan. So that's where the 150 comes from, was putting those two items together. You know, as Steve has said, we formally made the recommendation to move forward with the Class 1 survey. That's typically something a town or municipality would provide to consultants further down the line. When we get signed on as an architectural firm, that's one of those things that a client has already put into place and has completed already. So we're kind of setting that same precedent that I'm just very used to. So again, with the master price agreement, it's run through 461. I would say, I talked with our planner, Mark Carullo, who said he could very easily put together a RFP to issue to the companies that are on the master price agreement, and could very easily get that started. And then just additionally, behind the scenes, the committee has been also working on a full report to identify, to kind of outline all of the work that we've done to date, including last year and the past 6 months since our resolution was revised. So we are in the process of finalizing that, where every member is contributing a piece into that report. So it's just now at the stage where we're compiling everything. We're hoping that we can eventually have a joint meeting, present that report to you, and at that stage, also ask for the ability to move into the master planning and the RFQ process. So that's going to that's coming down the road probably in July. But I just wanted to kind of give you, that's kind of the heads up where we're going or where we would like to go. And really, other than that, we're kind of going to be stalled out if we don't continue to move forward. So, you know, the committee has been very eager to continue moving forward, and I'm so thrilled to see that eagerness and the excitement. But they are a little hesitant that we're not going to get the okay to move forward. So I would just, you know, maybe see which way the councilors are tonight are leaning for us to continue moving forward, because I don't want to be stuck in the mud, to say. I want to make sure that we have a lot of good momentum moving forward. I want to keep that momentum. To be perfectly honest, this is the fastest I've seen a town project move, and I think that's because we've had our foot on the pedal pretty heavily, just knowing the hurdles that some towns and cities have to go through. So, I was also curious to just kind of see the consensus of the council to see, is there the what's the word I'm looking for?
The desire?
The desire to, thank you, to continue moving forward with us. Otherwise, you know, again, we're going to stall out, and I'm afraid that that's going to be a bump in the road.
I can't speak for everybody, and we never called a vote on this, but does the mission change? Isn't the mission just as important if we say, let's get away from brick and mortar right now, and let's figure out what we can do with the open space? The mission should be just as it's just as important. So does it really change things for the committee if that if that's what the direction that you went in?
That gets addressed at a master plan. So a master plan addresses all short-term and long-term goals. So then that way, you know, if we're putting in infrastructure, that's planned for well in advance, and we're not redoing it over again. It really, the master plan is essentially just the roadmap. Short-term, what are we going to do right now? Right now we have the community garden going in. You know, it was mentioned at one point, there's a splash pad, there's going to be trails. We need the survey to be able to identify where we can put trails. So really that master plan is the next, essentially the next step. And it incorporates those short-term goals and then potentially phases out that whole long term. So it's not, the master plan is not just a building, it's all encompassing of the property.
Okay.
Right, so I think we can't confuse what has transpired with the police station from a master plan project, where that was a singular building. There really is no short to long term. This would be looking at everything from, you know, again, a 1 to 2 year plan, to 6 month plan, to 5, 7, 10 year plan. Where you could even, like I know it was a concern brought up by a few people on council, where we may outgrow the school, where we may have to look at that. Well, that could be played into that long-term master plan, but we don't know how to get there if we delay it a day, a year, or 2 years, or 3 years down the road. Now we're kind of behind the 8 ball. So, you know, again, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think if we're going to continue to keep the momentum in a positive way, you know, I personally don't see any, I'm not saying that we necessarily, you know, have to agree to give the full 130,000, but I certainly don't see it how it would be negative to move forward in that direction.
Anyone else have any questions?
No questions, but comments on this. I think that we are running too fast on this, faster than we need to be. And it may go counter to what you're thinking, but we're going too fast on this project. council hired Weston and Sampson to do a full review. And if you remember right before we signed the contract with them, we wanted more meetings with Weston and Sampson. We got one meeting with Weston and Sampson, going back. The council got one meeting with Weston and Sampson on this thing. And all it was a presentation. Here's the report. That was it. We had no chance to read it, to rebut, to ask other questions other than that immediate one meeting that we had with them, which is what I advocated not to happen. I wanted more meetings with the council. We're the decision makers. We needed to have advice from professionals that we hired. We're all in agreement that we need to do the demolition of those buildings, which we're still waiting to do. My hope was we would have seen that before we set the budget, so if we were short funds, we could budget for it. But we're not there yet, and that's okay. We'll get to the point where we demolish the buildings. But the last report that I read about the Hallwell Review Committee was, now they're looking at the library possibly going there, and a whole host of other issues, as well as the YMCA getting involved in the project, which is okay. That's what it should have been looking at. That's something that Weston and Sampson should have looked at. How do we use this piece of building, this piece of property, for a potential school, in a library, in a senior center, or a community center, or whatever? And it all got focused into this community center. One thing fits all. And we lost out on a lot of things that should have been considered, that now they're looking to consider them again now. I think that it's too early to hire someone and pay someone to come in and say, let's look at this whole big master plan. Let's get the buildings torn down. If we need to, let's get the site survey so we know what's underground, so we know what we're dealing with, where the wetlands are and whatnot. But I think we're way too early to go ahead and get a master plan on this thing when we're not ready to build, or we're not even sure what we want to build there. We need to decide that as a council. We need to decide, and we haven't even seen what the potentials are for that. I think it's too far out there right now. We don't have enough answers to say, yeah, let's hire a master planner and have them come in and do a whole big, we need the long-term plan. I've been advocating from before we even hired Weston and Sampson. There's a short-term and a long-term. But we don't even know what the long-term is gonna look like, because there's so many possibilities out there that no one even looked at. And that's what Weston and Sampson should have done in my mind, and it wasn't done. And so we're behind the 8 ball now. Just.
Jeff, real quick before, can you speak to the scope of Weston and Sampson? Because I've heard Councilman Vadney mention this before.
Sure.
And so I just wanna make sure that everybody is fully understanding of what the objectives were of Weston and Sampson and what they provide or what they delivered.
Sure. So there's two things that I can respond to and address Mr. Councilor Vadney's statements. The final part of the Weston and Sampson report says that the next steps for the Hallwell Review Committee should go into master planning. I'm just gonna make that it was a very clear statement. We asked Weston and Sampson to provide for you in their report what our next steps should be. And they clearly identified going into a master plan. So that's the process that had been outlined by our paid professional consultants. Secondly, their scope was a land use study, not master planning, but it was just an overall looking at the property, saying, okay, these are what can be done with the property. We had our design charrette where the community feedback was taken. We had surveys that were online where feedback was taken, and Weston and Sampson provided the report that they did. Whether or not they needed to, I agree with you 100%, they needed to meet with you more. Totally agree with you. Because we had an extra meeting with the HRC and them, they elected to that was one of their 7 meetings that was owned by contract. So unfortunately, there was a lot of push and pull with that consultant. They did what was outlined in their contract, with the exception of the one additional meeting for the town council, and that was also in the midst of a transition when our former town planner had left. So that was also part of our that was part of the communication that kind of fell by the wayside on that. So the scope of work that Weston and Sampson was completed that, to their ability. While I also agree there were some things that were lacking that should have been studied a little bit further. Could they have done a better job? Maybe. Did they do a bad job? Not really. They, as I said in the past, they completed their work that was outlined in their contract. And as I said previously, they outlined the next steps for us. We're at the master planning phase. The master planning phase isn't going to hone us in on one particular issue. If you recall, the draft RFQ that I provided to council had stated that we are going to have multiple meetings with whatever consultant gets chosen. And if we want to increase that number, we sure as heck can. That's not an issue. But we also had called for having multiple town meetings, so we don't just have one design charrette like Weston and Sampson did. We have, in that request, we have multiple town meetings, some at night, some on the weekends, some during the day, so then that way we're not excluding anybody in town, so if they can make one but not the other, they're at least involved. So I think Weston and Sampson certainly gave us a learning curve and what we want to see with the next steps and what we want to put into our request for qualifications, understanding what the professionals can and cannot provide. And that's really, again, I'm going to argue, while we're not ready to get shovels into the ground as we are with the police station, we want to provide the roadmap for the next 5-10 years. And with that master plan, whatever we can say that it's going to be phased, we can, by the time that this master plan is completed, it's going to be a 6 to 8, maybe 10-month process. At the end of that 10-month process, construction costs will be a little bit more easily estimatable. We can look at escalation to say, okay, phase 1 is going to be the open trails and some of the site work, and that's going to be phase 1, and that's going to be X amount of dollars, and that's what we're going to move forward with. Next election, if we need to go forward with a bond, it's going to be phase 2, and we're going to look at this a portion of this building, and then, whatever they come up with. So, as I said in the letter last week about within the budget hearing, is that these are just professional services at this point. And we're looking at those professional services to narrow down what's going to happen at that property, and then what the cost is going to be. And then we bring that back to you, and within having a couple review meetings and say, this is where the direction we're heading. We're going to put this out to estimation, and if there's changes that the council would like to make, we are certainly able to hear that. So, while I do agree we are moving quicker than we normally do, but I also understand that there are some residents in this town that want to see something happen sooner than later, especially if things are going to be including a senior center. I want to be able to say that to somebody that at least we have a plan, and move forward with that as well. So.
Anyone else?
While Weston and Sampson has said these are the next step, it isn't the immediate next step. It is a next step, not the next step, being a master plan. And this board needs to be aware of what we want to see happen down at that property based on what we're getting from comment. And we don't even have an idea of, are we gonna build a new library there? Are we eventually gonna have to build a new school there? Are we gonna build a senior community center? We don't even know. So how are we gonna hire someone to go out there when we don't even have a clear direction, and we're the ones that set the direction? That's our responsibility. We need to get more input maybe from the Hallowell Review Committee to us, not to outside people. We need to determine where we want to go with this before we start hiring people and saying, oh yeah, let's do this. This is a microcosm of, I think, why we're in the position that we're in now, because some people made the assumption that we could decommission Hallowell, raise some of those buildings, and then use the existing cafeteria to go in and use without realizing that you needed to bring that complete building up to code, to the new current codes, which we then determined that it's not feasible to bring that building up to the current codes. It needs to be demolished like the rest of them. And so we need to be aware of what's going on going forward. And that's why I say that it needs to slow down, because we need to be making decisions. We're the decision makers. And it's not because I want to sit in my ivory tower. Believe me, I've been on the other side with reporting committees. I'm still on a reporting committee that advises you guys. And we report to you guys on a regular basis. We don't jump, we don't move until you say, yes, go ahead. I understand the process. It's going too fast. We need to be understanding of what's going on or what potentially may be going on over there, and not just saying, oh, let's look at this. We do need a bigger picture, but we need to know what might be in that bigger picture, and we don't know that yet.
And I think that's going to be addressed in the report that the HRC is putting together for July. And they, right now, we are not going to be definitively saying, we need a library down there. We're not saying that.
Nope.
We don't want to.
I don't expect that.
And why we're looking at the master planning is, we're only a group of 9 people that volunteer their time to be able to ask questions as volunteers. We need the assistance of professionals to go out and have surveys done, have open meetings to build ideas and generate whatever possibilities could be down there, and then start connecting all the dots for us. You know, while our initial survey was great, we only got 450 responses. There's 12,000 people in town. So our committee doesn't know how, other than knocking on the door every day and asking, what are your thoughts on Hallowell, which would take quite a bit of time for 9 people to go through all town. That's the other reason why we're looking to design professionals for help, because they will know ways of pulling information out of our residents and pulling ideas and being able to succinctly go after and really build common threads for what could go down at Hallowell.
Anyone else? Any questions, comments? Nothing further?
So again, it does say action, so if you wanted to, make a motion to approve the town planner to write an RFP to move forward with this Class 1 survey, I would not be object to that action item, because it's gonna need to get done one way or the other. Regardless of what happens at the property, it's gonna need to be done. So it's either under $30,000 now or under $30,000 later. So.
Just to Paul Vadney's point about going too fast, it's kind of, I was on the same page in the sense that when I was saying, like, can we figure out what we can do with the open space for now? All right, we're gonna knock the buildings down, hopefully in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
And when that happens, there's gonna be a lot of room down there.
There sure is.
For them, I understand that you wanna do the master plan, but can we figure out for now, because things are so crazy, and there's no way in the world are we gonna have a police station and a building down at the,
I agree.
at Hallowell, right?
I agree.
So if we're looking at best scenario, 8 years, so why not come up with something to do with the open space now? And then, because there's a lot of space down there, we can really utilize it. Maybe, like you said, splash pads, maybe redo the courts. There's stuff we can do in the meantime.
So
That's what I'd like to see, personally, what I would like to see the committee to come up with, be focused on that.
That still means we have to do some engineering. A splash pad requires engineering. If we're gonna say we're redoing the Pacheco Park entrance and the parking lot here, that all requires engineering. So we're gonna have to have a civil engineer and a landscape architect do the pathways along the wetlands, in a DEM approved fashion. So there is going to, the Hallowell Review Committee could sit all day and just spitball, hey, we could do this here, we could do that there. But we need some level of professionals to be able to do the survey, document what we want to do, so then that way we have the documents to go out to bid, to do anything down there. So while I totally understand that, you know, we can certainly say, hey, the splash pad right here would be fantastic, we would still need to go out and ask an engineer to do the power, the piping and the plumbing for the water, and civil and landscape to make sure that everything's all level and code compliant. So I think what you'll find in the report that's being compiled right now is that there are these suggestions here. We are providing that information of this is what we found, this is what we've heard. It's just basically a response of what we've heard from town residents, what we've seen from visits to other community centers, what we understand that we need for grants, what we need to proceed forward with all community partnerships, the Y, the library, Parks and Rec. There's just a lot of information that's gonna be in there, I promise you. But at some point, we are gonna need to say, okay, we do need professional services to be able to do these things.
Ms. Ventnor?
There's where I agree with you, but we're not there yet. To your point, you want to build an outdoor track that people can walk on, or you want to fix the basketball court, or you want to build a splash park. You go ahead and you build that, and in 5 years from now, you say, we need to build a library, that's where we're going to put it. That's why you need the master plan. But you need to know what all of the pieces that potentially you want to build, so you don't have to move things when you do them. So it's a process, and we're not close to knowing what we want there. We don't know what all the puzzle pieces are, so we can't build the puzzle yet. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys. I understand what we're looking for, and believe me, I want to see that property developed the right way too. But it's a process you have to follow, and we don't know what the puzzle pieces are, and until we know that, to go out and say, yeah, let's look at, because they're gonna put the splash pad here, and then you're gonna find out in 5 years, 7 years, oh, we need that space to build something else. You follow me?
Well, I follow you, but now you seem like you're contradicting what your original.
We're not we don't know what we want there yet, and so we don't need a master plan yet, because we don't know what the pieces are. Once we know what the pieces are, what we're looking to do, then you can go to get a master plan done. We don't even know what those pieces are yet.
So who's gonna decide what's gonna be there, us, or are we looking for feedback from the Hallowell Review Committee?
You're gonna get advice from the committee that you form, but obviously, it's gonna be the council that's gonna make those decisions on what you wanna have them look at, saying, these are the things that we think we need on that property.
So your memo that you're creating or you're developing for the next meeting in July or whenever it's gonna be,
Right.
are you gonna have all these different ideas written down, like splash pad and like all these other things that?
There is a portion of the report that calls out ideas and items that were brought to our attention through the survey, through the design charrette, and through discussions with the 5 committees that we've talked with thus far, the folks from the YMCA, the library, the Parks and Rec Commission, the Art Committee, Conservation Commission, which one am I forgetting? And the Senior Citizen Advisory Committee. So we have had conversations with them. We had I thought what was a very successful meeting with them a couple of weeks ago, just to hear what their aspirations are as a committee. And unfortunately, our comp plan only goes so far with places like the library, with places like Parks and Rec. So being on the planning board, I was looking at that first to really kind of identify, okay, is there anything in our comprehensive plan that outlines what we want to see at Hallowell? There's not. Is there anything that talks about a senior center? It says, North Smithfield has no senior center. They might utilize the Andrews Mill building, which is down right at the corner of Victory Highway and St. Paul Street, which has now since been purchased by Neighborhood Works to become residential apartments. So that's out of the question. And you know, I know there's been discussion about Scouters Hall potentially being for the seniors as well. The library, As you know, back in 2007, they went out to bond to be moved into the steam building at the mill here, and that failed. They didn't move forward. In further conversations with the Board of Trustees there and the library director, I asked, what would you like to be doing at your building? And they said that one of the things that has stuck out in my mind is that we are maxed out. We can't provide any new programming. We can't provide quiet study rooms. The community room that they have is on a such a strict schedule that they have to schedule in employee lunch breaks so that there's not a story time in that community room. And I understand their concern of their location, completely understand that because they're very centrally located. But really what the intent of that meeting was for us to get as many puzzle pieces as we can. And then at that point, once we get all of those puzzle pieces on the table, start to see which ones fit together. One of the big overlapping items that I took from one of our meetings is that the senior citizens, Parks and Rec, and the library all had food as a common theme. So they were all talked about having a commercial kitchen to either work with the community garden to teach people how to can or make bread. And the library was like, oh wait, we do cooking classes too. And then the senior citizens group was also saying, well, we hold events that requires a catering size kitchen. So just in that 2-hour meeting, we already found one common thread with 3 of the groups in town. And they didn't even know that they weren't aware that they were all kind of in the same boat, if you will. So it's just, like I said, this report that we're compiling right now is you're gonna see a lot of those common threads and those puzzle pieces that Councilor Vadnais is talking about. However, yes, I agree. It's gonna be up to you with what puzzle pieces we're gonna wanna use. And again, with the professional services, when I go back to the master planning, having a design team on board, helping the Hallowell Review Committee identify all those puzzle pieces and really identify, okay, well, here's a big chunk that can fit in here. Here's another one piece that fits real well here. And they, architectural firms have a really good way of extracting information from town residents, whether it be through verbal communication, drawings, emails, whatnot. But it takes the pressure off of the HRC to really develop that program, if you will, that roadmap, and will really refine a good way for the town to move forward. So I'm not saying that the 9 members are completely inept. I'm not saying that at all. We just don't have the resources to be able to put all those puzzle pieces together and recommend them and present them, so.
So maybe after you do this document that you're gonna bring to us with all your different ideas, maybe we publicize that out to the, different ways of media, and then we have a public hearing and see if we have any more feedback with the residents.
We sure can.
Just so we can start getting it going.
Mm-hmm.
And, because like you said, you only got 450 responses out of all the
Right.
people who live in town, so.
So I know when we had our Pumpkin Festival booth, we got a lot of good feedback from that as well. We had those, if you remember, those 5 high-level concepts from Weston Sampson. We got a lot of good interactions with people just coming by our booth and saying, oh, hey, what's going on here? And we obviously talk with them and explain to them that we've gone through this process, and they really kind of gravitated towards different aspects that were presented. So one of the things that I've always been saying is that the Hallowell Review Committee isn't here to dictate anything. We're here to listen to what the residents' needs and wants are, and then report that back to you. so I've always been advocating for our group just to be listening and asking questions and making sure that we're getting as full of a picture as we can as we move forward.
Anybody else have any questions, comments?
Yeah, it's one thing I want to add. So I just want everyone to be cognizant of, although it was, what'd you say, 450 participants?
Yes.
Those are 450 respondents. So, you know, that includes, so I look at it as 450 households. So within that, you know, you might have one person with a family of 4 that's responding on behalf of that 4 population as opposed to 1. So if you really do somewhat of a conversion, you're probably looking at, we probably got somewhere in the upwards of about 3,000, 3,500, somewhere around there, as far as a populated vote. You know, because again, one person could represent 5 people in a household, or 3 or 2.
So you're still looking at only like a quarter of the town that, you know, gave any opinion whatsoever, so.
Right.
And if you did do a survey, like how far would that get you? Would that just get you to the point of saying, okay, a splash pad could be here, or would that just give you different ideas of what could go where, or would that do anything?
It wouldn't be locating these pieces like a splash pad. It would be more formulating, I'll say for the better wording, a program that will say, people want to see a splash pads, people want to see a skate park, people, you know, the community garden was received very well, so the community garden now has 2 spots as opposed to 1 this year. Or, you know, comments could be like, well, you know, we'd really like to see a teens study space, or a robotics space, or bike repair, or somebody could just very easily say, well, I'd like to see more art classes in town. So it's just trying to gather all of that, identify, okay, somebody wants to see art classes, what does that translate into as far as a building program goes? Can that be a flexible classroom that has, you know, a sink and a place to clean up brushes or something that can then be shared with a robotics lab, because there's all electrical component, you know, electrical outlets placed all throughout the room. So it's just, again, taking it all in and finding the common threads, and being able to build, again, a program to present, and then we just, you know, decide on, okay, well, as our survey said, 41 of the respondents said that they wanted a senior center. That's pretty big. One thing that we always are contending with for these surveys is also whether or not people in town care, you know, because there are some folks that are like, community center or whatever's going down in Howell, that's not gonna affect me. I'm not gonna take any part of it. It's gonna, you know, some people might say, oh, it's the YMCA is going down there. Well, I just like to read books. That the YMCA is not gonna do anything for me, so why? So it's just kind of pulling all that information out and doing it in a multitude of different ways where people feel comfortable coming to a public hearing and speaking, or putting their suggestions in an idea box or an online survey. Or I know Mrs. Tebow was very helpful in getting out paper surveys to the senior housing throughout town. So that's other ways that we can get meetings and everything. So again, we're just pulling everything in, and then I want to get you guys excited for this report in July. Because I think what you'll find is that a lot of questions are going to be answered, and there's a lot of writing, but we're trying to put in a lot of pictures too, and trying to give you folks the Cliff Notes version of it. Probably a bad choice of words for that. But the abbreviated version of that, and present that to you at a joint meeting in the near future, I would hope would quell those fears that we might be moving too fast, understand where we're going, because I think we really have a very good handle on things. And and our recommendations to move forward with everything. So I feel like I've been just talking too much, so, and I told my wife that this was gonna be a quick council meeting, so I think at
It's
this.
all on you right now.
Yeah, it's all on me, really. At this
Jeff, you're on
point,
the
you
hot
know.
seat for half an hour, and you handled it very well.
So, but honestly, I think if the council this evening could, you know, put, through the administrator, put the bug in our planner's ear to get that RFP going for the Class 1 survey, I think we would only benefit from it. Especially when speaking that we want to do things when things are a little drier for wetlands, that also kind of assists us in figuring out what the buildable land is, what the trails could be, where potential bridges could be sited. So,
Instead of taking action tonight on this matter, I think maybe we'd be better off, we have the budget discussions coming up next week, and we'll talk about it as far as the
well,
allotting.
here's a counterpoint to it, though. If you put out an RFP for a Class 1 survey, now with the planner, you will get a proposal back from a firm with a definitive number. So you will be, if it's, rather than just doing, oh, let's just throw 30,000 in there, say a company comes back and says, well, we'll do it for 22. There's your line item. So I understand you guys have the deliberations next week. It might be a little quick to turn things around, but
We're not gonna get an RFP on it for Monday.
it's not, yeah, it's not gonna put us over into the red with a Class 1 survey.
Okay.
Got a question out there.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. Can any of the ARPA funds be used for any of this? I mean, how well is a public health element here? We're talking community center, we're talking parks, we're talking recreation. You know, we've been reading a lot about ARPA funding. There's a lot of communities across the country that are utilizing ARPA funds for surveys and construction. It's deemed that outside space and community centers and those types of things really play a future role in the landscape of the country going forward. So I would have a hard time believing that that money couldn't be used for something like that. So it might make sense to get a clarification on that, and then you could allocate some of those funds instead of throwing another $160,000 into the budget that could be used to fund, you know, the school system, the firefighters, police, et cetera. Just an idea of roadways, et cetera.
I like Mr. Ozier's idea because he said 160,000.
He did. I caught that too.
So I like that idea.
Thanks,
So
Jeff.
unless there's any other questions, I think I'm gonna call it for tonight.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Good job. Okay, we're gonna move on. New business. Mr. Keene, you're up. Discussion by council, vote other action on North Smithfield Heritage Association Fair on July 9th, 2022.
Hi, Rich Keene from the North Smithfield Heritage Association, 7 Bamford Street. After the parade, some of the committee members wanted to get involved in another event. I don't know what water they're drinking, but we can find out if we should bottle it. But that said, we got to work on the Heritage Day, which we're trying to revive. A couple of years ago, the Heritage Association ran a Heritage Fair. And so we're piggybacking on the North Smithfield. I'm sorry, thanks, Carl. So we wanted to piggyback on the North Smithfield Days and do this Heritage Day. Right now, we're planning on doing it on July 9th here at the town hall grounds. I'm going to apologize. I don't know what permits or fees. I neglected to ask you folks the last time that I was up to speak about this, if there are any required. But if there are, I'd like to ask the council to waive those fees. Additionally, I don't know, we have about, right now, about 8 vendors who have indicated that they want to come and participate. We didn't plan to charge them any fees. I don't know if they have to pay some sort of a fee or a permit for this or not, but if it's possible, would like the town council to waive those as well.
Joanne, what are the fees that would typically be included in something like that? Just the licensing fees, right?
$300 fee for the event, and then each truck should be licensed.
Well, it wouldn't be a $300 fee for the event if it's a town event.
No, Joanne, we went through this. So if he's gonna have food trucks, each food truck needs to have a license. We can't waive that. That's a state requirement that they have a license. But now the Heritage Association is having an event. There's a $300 fee for the event. Doesn't matter how many trucks he has. We can waive that fee. We can't waive the individual truck fee, the $75 that they have to charge to have a license to sell. We can't waive that fee. But we can waive the $300 fee for having multiple trucks on the same day. We can waive that fee.
But it's not, tell me if I'm wrong, Richard, it's not a Heritage Association event, it's the North Smithfield Days event. They're joining us.
We're co-sponsoring.
Right.
Essentially.
Right,
So we can waive that fee.
yeah.
We can waive that $300 fee. Each truck has to pay their own fee. And we had that discussion.
Yeah, every
Last
year,
year,
every year.
year ago, right. The trucks need to pay their license fee, one-time fee, $75 for the year. They can be here, you know. On the day that they all want to gather, though, whoever having that event needs to pay a fee, $300. We can waive that fee. And these vendors, Joanne, if they're just like local vendors, like the guy selling his own honey or whatever, they don't need victualling licenses, do they, for stuff like that?
No, look into that.
It's,
Like the school or something, at any event, it's peddler's license.
And we can waive those fees. Oh,
Yeah, please.
One of the things that I'm going to look in with the trust is an insurance rider for the Deplorable parking lot out there. You know my feelings on this parking lot. Somebody's going to fall, twist an ankle. Let's hope that's the extent of the injury. So there was a local resident had a shower, wedding shower, wedding reception held in the backyard, and they asked if they could use the parking lot. I said, absolutely, just get a ride. So I think it's something we're gonna have to maintain. Even though it's a public event, it's public property, we're conjoining with the heritage, I think it's something that we should look at. I'll take a look at that with the local trust. I think we should have a rider in place, and now it'll be up to council to pay the fees.
just to piggyback on that, the school department has that because the trust has enforced that. So you use the school, any grounds at the school or the buildings, you need to provide $1 million rider coverage to use that. I do it with my night show, the car show that I do. I have to provide them with a rider saying that they're named as also insured for $1 million for a thing. So it may be something that we need to look at, that if people want to use the town's facilities, they need to have an insurance rider. They're not expensive.
No.
They're not expensive, and the trust will help you out with it.
Yeah, 1 or 2 day event, it's really, it's not cost prohibitive.
No.
It's money well, it's insurance.
It protects everybody. It protects the other side, it protects everybody.
Now, I know we've discussed this last year too, but didn't we waive, aren't we capable of waiving a $75 fee? What, like, yeah.
You did.
So why do you think we can't, what am I
We
thinking?
don't-
Why
no,
can't we do that?
Because we went over that, and we can't, because we can't waive, the fee that they pay, the $75 fee that they pay,
Yeah.
is to have the license to have the truck. Not just at this event. They don't pay for this event. It's a one-time fee that they pay.
Right.
But then if they come to an event like this, where there's multiple trucks, or the fireworks, where there's multiple trucks, we can waive that. There's a $300 fee for the organization having those trucks at the event. We can waive that fee. The $75 fee is for them to operate their truck with a license. and it has to meet all kinds of requirements, Department of Health and all that. That's why we were discussing that. They need to pay that fee. It's a one-time fee to have their vehicles here.
Yeah, but I
So-
remember last
So we'll
year.
just use an example, I don't wanna, I gotta put a name out there just because everyone knows. Mickey G's.
Yeah.
He does a number of things at a number of different places. He buys his license, he pays $75. Now, if he's doing something for the Boy Scouts at Scouters Hall, his license is covered. He's paid for that license, we don't have to waive it. He has to buy it eventually for one thing that we're not gonna waive the fee. But there's also a fee if you have, and it's state law, that if there's more than 3 trucks or whatever it is in one place, there's a $300 fee. That's in the ordinance, and we can waive that fee, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
So the individual trucks have to have their own $75 license. We don't waive that fee. They need that because wherever they are, not just at this event. You follow me?
I follow you, but if we're saying that they're gonna come in, if Joe's Hamburgers are gonna come in for just one day, I thought what we did in the past was said, okay, if you're coming in July 9th, all right, we're gonna waive your fee, but if you're gonna come in, the following week or the following week, then you're gonna have to, file for
Well,
the
most of the
$75
guys,
fee.
most of the guys that you have come to these things, they're at multiple things. There's the same, that you guys use the same guys in the Parks and Rec, and it's the same guys that are coming, and so we can waive that fee. The $300 fee for having multiple at an event, we can waive that fee, and I'm all in favor of waiving that. I'm not,
Yeah,
just like if we need to waive the fee for these individual vendors, I'm okay with that. They're not, they're not, it's not, some big company coming in, and selling stuff. They're local people selling their local products.
okay. So, obviously, there won't be a $300 fee.
No, we can waive that.
Waive it.
So I'll make the motion right now that we waive that $300 fee.
Second.
Any further discussion on that? Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Richard, can you get me a list of who's going to your event?
Absolutely.
Maybe they can just, when they're done, just take a ride down and set up down at the school.
Yeah, well, right now, we only have a kettle corn
Well,
vendor.
actually, she's, what? She's out, right?
Well, I just spoke with the solicitor about that, and I'm going to see if we can try to get her on for Monday.
Oh, good idea. Okay. I didn't even think of that. She got lucky. Okay,
Oh, good.
yeah.
Oh,
Because
sure.
she didn't have her paperwork in on time, but
Oh,
I guess because we have a meeting Monday, but we can throw that on the agenda. Just
awesome.
Okay. I got a couple. If you want, reach out to me and I'll let you know who's coming. Maybe they can just go to yours earlier.
All right, yeah, that'd be terrific.
Okay.
And thank you very much, by the way, for taking care of the fee. And while I have the microphone, I just wanted to make a quick advertisement for anybody that's at home watching. We still have room for more vendors. And we're also doing a car cruise day here at the town hall. So if there are any car owners at home that want to participate, we'd welcome them that day as well.
I think it's great. When we first started North Smithfield Days, the intention was that hopefully someday it would be bigger than just what we're doing. So it's great that you guys are doing this and jumping on, and it's gonna make it even better.
I think it's going to
They did your Heritage Days 4 years ago? You timed it with the Memorial Day Parade.
2 years
And
ago.
they had Heritage Hall open, and they were displaying all of the relics that they have and whatnot and everything, and now you have even more than that, and they're at the other building, aren't they?
Right, so we'll have both buildings
They're
open as
both buildings
well.
open, so,
Great.
yeah, it's something that we can definitely grow on.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
Richard.
much.
Thanks. Christian, you missed the public hearing. I know exactly why you're here, but that we closed the public hearing about 10 minutes before you got here on the budget.
Okay.
I'll talk to you about that, I know what you want to do. We'll talk about it.
All right.
All right, thanks. New business B, discussion by council vote of action on appointment to the planning board. We have one application that was submitted for the opening spot on the planning board from Mr. Lucian Benoit, if you guys want to take a quick look at the application. If anybody cares to make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we, appoint Dr. Bennett to the planning board. He's been very active on boards previously, and I think he'd be an asset once again.
Okay, Ms. O'Hara nominated Lucian Benoit for the planning board, whose application is in the packet. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion on Mr. Benoit? Roll call, please.
No.
Yes.
Yes?
No.
Yes. Okay, I think that pretty much covers it, unless I missed anything. Before we adjourn, just real quick, for the public, go over those dates again. So we're gonna meet Monday for the council's gonna deliberate Monday, and then if we need to be, it'll be on Wednesday continued. Okay? All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn at this time.
Motion to adjourn?
All in favor?
Aye.
That was fast.